This one's really gonna clear my head. I want to talk about psychedelic rock in general. I normally don't even think about Led Zeppelin. By the way, when I think psychedelic rock to myself, and I don't even know why. But there's a couple perfect bands, I just totally fell in love with. I don't even know why, because I think of this hard rock. Hard psychedelic rock at that. That's why I'm pretty much in this Led Zeppelin stuff for myself as well with the Strawberry News. With the songwriting. The Beatles got to really the Beatles really do it for me, man. The Beach Boys and the Beatles really do it big. Because they've got these love songs and they're these marble psychedelic rock bands, and I got to know about both of these bands at a very young age, and I got into whoever all at the same time. The Doors, Jim Morrison. When I discovered Jim Morrison, it was so crazy for me because I may have even been on John Lennon right before Jim, and Jim just took all my attention. And then John gets back in there because he's walking around with this big black coat for some reason. But the Jim Morrison, has these crazy movies or documentaries about him. Primarily as a poet is how I got to love Jim so much, because I'm a poet. I write poems. John Lennon is so groovy, it's insane. John Lennon's songwriting is so very special because he gets into the psychedelic songwriting as a total loner to us as well. It's really great for lonely people. My mind may leave me when I'm trying to talk about this because I've got this witch in my head and it hurts my head. Okay. So, the Beach Boys got to really sneak up on me after I was into Pink Floyd as well. 'Cause this Brian Wilson. I spent the most time on Pink Floyd, because of Roger Waters' voice on The Wall. And that was that Schoolhouse Rock that really got to pull me in. The Wall. The album The Wall. And I love this movie, Love and Mercy, with Brian Wilson. And Brian Wilson, I can't believe he even does this stuff. God Only Knows, or Wouldn't It Be Nice? With all these deep dives, Surf's Up, the album Surf's Up, when I played it, it was even sort of the spookiest tone. I know people really like Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds might be the biggest one no matter what, because it's sort of a tug and pull on the album. With these world famous love songs, but Surf's Up is super creatively spooky. But however, Smile is his project I got to find And, I guess the world got to see that as well. And the world sees all this stuff, and you're seeing it from me, in my own way. You get thrashy, the hard psychedelic rock comes out. And when I discovered Jim Morrison, things got to really open up. That's not the Lou Reed later on. Jim's a wild man. A baboon. In the studio. It's so funny to me. Jungle Jim. You might as well call him Jungle Jim. Because it's the funniest stuff you might ever even see in your life. And it's so enjoyable. So, Jam was really big for me. Robert Plant on stage. I actually, the Led Zeppelin stuff so crazy for me because sometimes I just pull things to the side. I save it for later. And this Jimmy Page guitar, funniest thing, I'm even saving it for a little bit later yet. Bob Dylan is really actually a great guitarist as well. And it's so funny because nobody even thinks about it. Tambourine Man. What a crazy psychedelic feeling song. Syd Barrett does this solo work that's really sweetheart. And I got to really love that for myself. Because a lot of that was inside of me. And this guitar playing and this producing and, the gasoline vocals of David Gilmour, it's really something I spent a lot of time on as well. Because it's Pink Floyd that got to spend the most time with me. Nick Mason really knocks it out for, one of the coolest looks in psychedelic rock music history. With his big mustache. I think he's in a video with like a clear cowboy hat on playing drums. That's got to be the one I'm thinking about. And Nick Mason really knocks out that look. Other than that, when people find this Jim Morrison, they say, "What's this Jim Morrison stuff I didn't hear about?" I say the same thing to you. But there's a lot of these guys, and they're all in the same era. And it's something you'll have your whole life. You could get into some sort of style contest if you want to. Because Syd Barrett's laying on his car. And it's pretty disrespectful. I might add. On this Pontiac. And he actually creates the name Pink Floyd. Which I became obsessed with. And I tried to name my music something, really that groovy. Because of Sid being that brilliant himself. I said, who came up with this name, by the way, Pink Floyd? And maybe I became so obsessed with Pink Floyd because of that name, Pink Floyd. And they get into that, David Gilmour gets into the songwriting where he's saying, by the way, which one's pink? And, I don't even know what I meant anymore because I didn't hear it before right there. But, Brian Wilson really got to steal a lot of time as well. And his piano playing. But Brian Wilson's great at everything. And I don't even have time to talk about him, to tell you the truth, at the moment. Because Which One Was Pink was one of the craziest, life stories for me. because I'm so uh I discovered this voice inside of me. Back in Eau Claire. And I was doing some weird stuff into my computer at Madison as well. However, the stuff you hear now, I discovered in Eau Claire when I was staying alone, with my preamp and my MacBook and my microphone. And I really got to give a lot of respect to Bon Iver as well as a modern, to me, a psychedelic rock, allowed to be called a psychedelic rock artist. And he actually got to be from Eau Claire, Wisconsin as well. And that school is right up in the sticks. I'm from the Northwoods. And it's a little bit more of a part of the Minneapolis, Minnesota area as well. The Chippewa Valley region. When I was young, I couldn't get enough of these field trips I would go on. And, they're just the most zen days out, in the fall time and everything like that. Come on, buddy. Teepees, learning about teepees and, these people you get to be around. So, because of marijuana culture, I got to really enjoy that region, really big time for me. Because I believe in marijuana and psychedelics. For America. As medicines, from the ground. Because of the suicide rate itself. Animals was one of my favorite ones from Pink Floyd. And I love this line. I would play it to myself. Hey, you White House, haha, charade you are. What a charade. And that was one of my favorite lines from rock music. Along with, which one's pink. Both those are from Pink Floyd, actually. I never got into any sort of specificities about the government or anything like that. But I did get to freak out when, I found out about something in my life. Because the human torture I was and I'm going through, is so insane for my body to go through. In my mind, with this witch attacking me, I need a lot of help still. But I would just sit around in Uptown. I'd play this huge pedal, this bell pedal right into my face. And what I would say to myself is, which one's pink? And I've got this curly hair. And I look like this little strawberry man. Like my mom's like this little strawberry girl. To me. And it came with this name. It came up with this name, the Strawberry News. If I stutter, it's the witchcraft. And I knew that was it. The Strawberry News. Just everything I'd be doing in my whole life. And it wasn't until, years into playing the guitar, a couple years, as well as a couple towns. I was playing my guitar in a couple towns. Madison, Wisconsin. Then I flew down to Fort Myers, Florida. Played my guitar down there. And then I flew up to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, all for school. And that's, when I was writing my poetry and I was playing my guitar after high school. And I picked up a guitar at UW-Madison right after I finished my drawing class, my charcoal drawing class. In Eau Claire, I had an absurd amount of time where I was doing theater and playing my guitar. Sometimes somber songs. I would play The Wall by Pink Floyd. And I got to be on in all of this new Bon Iver stuff that he was putting out. And I love to play those guys together. Bon Iver and Pink Floyd. And a lot of this stuff came out like folk rock because to me, the way Pink Floyd's put together with the acoustic guitar, it's so folky. Pink Floyd. And then, out of nowhere, there's this Syd Barrett that's starting it off so psychedelic and slingshot with his guitar. And Syd's not even so well known because of how colossal Pink Floyd got to be with Roger and David Gilmour. And their vocals, to me, really knocked it out for me. And it's such a storied band. I've got this new stuff from David Gilmour, The Piper's Call. Because I look like this little Piper man. And I do. Joseph Piper Overcup. It's really in my eyes. And I call myself the Strawberry News. I would just think about me and my mom. I had songs with me and my mom as well. Because, I was going to get out this story about me. At some point in my life, because The Wall, not because of The Wall, but because the story needed to be told. And it's a schoolhouse rock I was into, for me. You just gotta play it all the way through. Vera was a really crazy song. To me, the songs needed to be so emotional for me to play them because I needed that. But what I needed with it was the big oomph on top. And there's all these different voices coming from Pink Floyd. And that's the band that really inspired me the most, as the Strawberry News. You know, and on different songs, my vocals will change. You know, not that it's a different person or anything like that. But the voices are different. And you know, of course, you know, other bands do that too. But for me, I really got to dive into this Pink Floyd. And it was so crazy to see Justin's new stuff come out when I was in Eau Claire too. I remember when 22 A Million came out, and that's, you know, this modern, really psychedelic album. They'll label it alternative, anything that's psychedelic today. You know, but it comes from this folk guitar from the man, so you gotta give him some credit, you know, all that psychedelic rock credit, because it's this era of itself. And however, psychedelic rock music is, and however, psychedelic rock music is back. Some other ones on this album. You know, the first few, obviously. I love that song, Mother. All of them. There's so many more. There's so many more for me to even find, by the way. I don't even think I even played every Pink Floyd song. You know, because I'm playing on my guitar too. And I discovered Lou Reed later. However, he wasn't really the same as these guys. And Lou is really just some mad, mean style, right? I can't believe he put out a new song right now. But it wasn't really in the psychedelic rock music I was playing. To get some pain out, you know, I listened to The Wolves by Bon Iver. But it was 22 A Million for him. And you know, he loves Pink Floyd so much to make this album the way it is. And he does a really good job. And we're both from Wisconsin. So the biggest tour I got to see recently is this David Gilmour one. You know, after had a Halloween for myself. I think it's something about my half-sisters that I have to have a Halloween for myself. So I'm having another one this year. You know, any of the stuff that they're doing. Anyways, the cool thing is I won't even get to stop talking about psychedelic rock because I put out all this stuff. And for me, I really enjoy it coming from, a world with songwriting and some folk rock feel with some big oomph on top. And it's inside of the different voices that you find the strawberry news. Because this life drives people so mad. And there's just so much that people discover about themselves in old age. Something about as you live in your life, you see things from your past and they penetrate you inside of your life. In music, it can be so everyday. You can play music every day, and some people can't watch a movie every day. But you can play music every single day. So I've got all these voices coming out of the strawberry news. Because that's just how worked up people get every morning. Sometimes. And that's why psychedelic rock music is so brilliant. And we're actually joining a new era for ourselves. Right about now. And I can't wait for that, for everybody. So I guess I'll keep on talking about that.